Parce que li OK pour pas OK. Parce que parler capable rendre bagay yo meilleur. Parce que essayer communiquer c'est un signe force. Toujours gon raison pour partager qui j'en senti. Parce que santé mentale au compte.
Professionnel soin nan kay yo c'est un parti important dans équipe santé ya ak yon nan profession k'ap développer pi vite aux États-Unis. Assistant soin nan kay yo supporter moun ki gen anpil l'âge ak moun ki gen yon handicap pour yo karete vivre la kay yo sans danger. Les assistants yo aide yo nan activité tant kou kuit manger et puis fait achat nan maquette. Massachusetts offre une formation gratis en ligne qui pral montrer aux compétences ou besoin pour vignon professionnel k'ap travail nan yon kay. Les ou bay soin yon lot moun ki nan besoin, c'est un coup à bayo la vie.
Good morning, everyone. We're going to try and get started. This is such a friendly crowd and high energy. How are you? For folks who don't know, I'm fortunate enough to be the Lieutenant Governor in Massachusetts. My name is Kim Driscoll, and AAPI month at this very special celebration with so many members here who are high energy, members of the community who help strengthen this work every single day. I have the very difficult task of getting us settled and getting us ready for some terrific remarks from my partner in the corner office, our Governor Healey.
Thank you so much, Lieutenant Governor. I just want to say Kim Driscoll is just hustling her tail off all around the state. You've seen her everywhere, and we could not have a greater partner or teammate than our Lieutenant Governor. So welcome to the State House, everyone. It is such a joy and an honor to be able to celebrate with you this Asian American and Native Hawaiian Pacific Islander Heritage Month here in this state. We have incredible leaders from all around the state represented here in the hall this morning. I want to thank a few members of our team in particular, Secretary Yvonne Howe, for extending our leadership at the forefront of the global economy. Our MBTA manager, General Manager Phil Ang, who is looking to revitalize our public transit system. Gina Kwan, who is Undersecretary for Law Enforcement, advancing community safety. Karen Sang, who's working in Health and Human Services, a true leader on making sure we deliver care to residents across this Commonwealth. We also have Julie Chen, Chancellor of the University of Massachusetts at Lowell, Pam Ettinger, President of the Bunker Hill Community College, expanding opportunity through education, and so many others. It is just great to see you, including many colleagues from the Attorney General's office, to Cindy and Miriam and others. Great to see you as well. And of course, we are in the People's House, and so many people working hard day in and day out. Our colleagues in the legislature, including our legislative leaders, Taki Chan, Don Wong, Vanna Howard, Erica Eiterhoven, and I'm missing, who else is here? Oh, Senator Brady, nice ally. I know there are others, because, you know, this is, the other day we did an event, some of us, on addressing hate in the community, focused on anti-Semitism, but it's a broader message right now, isn't it? That we are a Commonwealth, we are strong, we stand up to bigotry, to prejudice, to discrimination. We stand for and affirm and celebrate our wonderful, wonderful collection and rainbow of races, ethnicities, cultures. It makes us stronger. It always has, and it always will. And that's why we wanted to gather here today. I think this might be the largest, you tell me, I mean, this is a very significant gathering here in the hall, so thank you so much for coming. We have We have leaders from so many incredible organizations who we partner with, people who have been mentors to me for a long, long time, and I thank you all for that. Business leaders, academic leaders. We have college students. Where are you? Where are you? Put your hands up. All right. Now, we want you to stay in Massachusetts, okay? Will you promise me? You're going to stay here. It's a great place to live, to grow a family, to grow a business. All right. So let's talk about a little bit of data that I've come by. I understand that between 2010 and 2020, the U.S. Census says that Massachusetts' population grew by 7.4%. Now, in that same span, our Asian American population grew 48%. 48%. That's how strong this community is. And this community is also diverse. It's Chinese American, Vietnamese American, Japanese American, Indian American, Korean American, and so much more. Asian Americans are leading and innovating across every industry, in small businesses, in our schools and colleges, and around our state. You know, last year the Lieutenant Governor and I were out and about looking for a job and trying to rally support around the state. And it was amazing, particularly we're here in Boston, which is important. And we're going to say more about our fabulous mayor in just a minute. It's also the fact that there's an incredible Asian American population around the state, and we need to support and draw upon that. It's not to say, though, that we don't have work to do. And I think that we saw, unfortunately, particularly during the pandemic, this terrible spike in anti-Asian hate crimes across the country. We've had incidents here in Massachusetts that we simply cannot tolerate. And we know that hate crimes target individuals, they target communities, they hurt entire communities. And the ripple effects of those acts are so significant. Right now, we're still shaken by the events in Allen, Texas, and the mass shooting, killing, including members of the Cho family. So tragic. UMass Amherst graduate and with connections here. And that's why I'm delighted to see my colleagues in the Attorney General's office. I know we're committed to working together to take a stand against hate crimes, hold people accountable whenever they occur, and continue the work of education and acclimation, right? And working on general, the humanity of all of us. We've got to do that as well. We also need to combat the less visible acts sometimes that harm people, the bullying in schools and workplaces, the subtle or not so subtle racist language sometimes, the stereotyping, and of course the lack of representation. This is something that we are committed to as an administration. We've launched an equity assessment to make sure that government is doing all it can in helping our communities and not holding anyone back. We're pleased with the diversity of our cabinet and an ethos that's going to run up and down this administration. But we clearly have more work to do. We need to make sure that every single young person out there and every not so young person out there knows that you are valued, you are heard, you are seen, and you deserve to live with dignity and safety and pride right here in Massachusetts. Because we know one thing to be true: when the Asian American community thrives, Massachusetts thrives. And now I want to bring up someone very special, and that is our fabulous mayor of Boston, Michelle Wu. Michelle Wu, I've had the honor and privilege of working alongside her in government in different capacities over the last several years. And Mayor Wu is somebody who is truly about community. She is about listening to the needs of community, and particularly in a time when there are disparities and there is fragility and there's vulnerability. making sure that no one is left behind. And the fact of the matter is, some voices have not been heard. Some voices have not been listened to. And Mayor Wu is about addressing that, and I really, really respect that. She's, of course, in so many ways, a role model to so many. She is a trailblazer, and she has time to do things like be an incredible concert pianist. I mean, did you see her the other day? I mean, honestly, what politician would have the guts to get up and perform on that stage? It just is a sign of her tenacity, her resilience, and also the joy with which she lives her life and is about the betterment not only of the lives of her two beautiful sons, but the lives of children across this great city and across this great state. And so I am just so happy that Mayor Wu, with her incredibly busy schedule, is joining us here today, and we welcome her to the podium.
Good afternoon, everyone. And thank you so much to the governor, lieutenant governor, and all of our leaders at the legislature and across the state and the administration for hosting us today. This is truly a historic gathering. It is a special event, and just looking around the room, the incredible leaders representing every sector who are here, who have knocked down barriers across every field and paved the way and continue to ensure that we have a voice and that we are actively shaping policies and decision making. I'm just in awe of the crowd that's gathered here. So thank you, Governor, so much for your leadership, and thank you to your entire team and for everyone for being here. I hate to overgeneralize, but some folks in this room might understand when I say my parents are prouder of my Symphony Hall appearance than anything about politics. So there was a little bit of, after different inaugurations, like, okay, that was fine. But Symphony Hall is now all those years of lessons, etc. This is the People's Building, represented by the People's Administration and the partners at the House and Senate, who really are nationally recognized champions for our community. And this month, when we celebrate Asian American, Native Hawaiian, Pacific Islander heritage here in Boston and across the Commonwealth, I especially want to thank those leaders from our community, some of who were recognized already, Reps Howard, Idahoven, Chan, Wong, and when Nina Liang is here from Quincy, our superstar, and who is opening doors for so many in elected office as well. Thank you, thank you. I was told that Cambridge City Manager Ian Huang might be over there. Welcome to your new post. Thank you. And Vice Chair Deepika Sawhney from the Lexington School Committee, I was told might be on the RCP list. Oh, nice to see you. And I just want to reflect, I grew up in a moment and maybe in a situation as the oldest child in an immigrant family where language barriers and cultural barriers were part of our daily existence. And leaving the house every day, the kind of roles would reverse as soon as we crossed the threshold. Inside the house, Mom and Dad were all knowing, all wise, very much in charge. And then as soon as we stepped over that doorway, I would be pushed out front as the translator and interpreter for the family. That meant that in many ways I felt my Asian American identity was both a contradiction with feeling invisible in a lot of ways and not necessarily recognized as an individual and kind of lumped in many stereotypes, but also so utterly visible in other ways. It's sticking out in a way that, whether it's lunches that you brought to school or just comments from those on the street in the community. And when I came to Boston for the first time and found my way to Chinatown and to get to know some of our AAPI communities across this city and this Commonwealth, there was just such a sense of relief and belonging for the first time in my life that I felt. And that is because leaders have been at it in our communities for a very, very, very long time, making sure that, for example, in Boston's Chinatown, we could still maintain and are still fighting every day for one of the most residential Chinatowns anywhere in the country, where the housing stock relative to other areas that have become more commercialized in other AAPI communities across the country has been relentlessly fought for and preserved and still needs to be added to in affordability, where the infrastructure with organizations like Viet Aid, who I think I saw George here somewhere in the crowd, and so many others across the state have really focused on providing a hub for all the services that may exist in buildings like this to actually reach community and to actually connect. So to the leaders who have made this possible, Auntie Helen, on just so many fronts from media, philanthropy, community service, and nonprofits, those who paved the way in politics, Leverett in this building for many, many years, Suzanne, who's the first to run from our community in Boston and continues to keep that door pushed as wide open as possible, those who are educators in academia, in small business, in public safety, and the many, many hats that you all wear working in the community as well. I think we've spent a lot of time together already this month. I've seen a lot of folks in this room at multiple events even this week, and it's just such a credit to this administration and this state that we're able to have such a fruitful and exciting Heritage Month with celebrations right here in the halls of power. Okay, I'm not going to go through my script because I think I've blasted through it. I will just end on one thing. When I first started to think about running for office, it was a terrifying idea. It had been suggested to me by a few folks and rejected by me many times. And it was because my entire time growing up had never not only thought, planned, or even imagined that this could be a role that would be possible. I had never met an elected official growing up. I think until sometime in college there was an event where someone came and spoke. I had not known anyone who had been in politics or government. And I hope that with the leaders that we have gathered here in elected office, in various leadership roles in public service that this administration is appointing, and that you all are representing in all the various fields, that we're providing a different ripple effect on the next generations. Yesterday we had the chance to hold our AA and HPI celebration at the city level on City Hall Plaza, and we had some cultural performances and food and gathering from our ERG, and it just struck me because one of the young performers, who's about this big and had been performing her dance number with a number of with other performers, she ran up to me right afterwards and she said, "I've seen you. I've took 2 pictures with you before, and I'm going to add one more to my collection." So I'm excited that as someone who grew up never meeting an elected official, period, that we have so many incredible examples in the city and the Commonwealth of people who represent our communities, feel connected, and that our young people just think it's another normal thing when they can see all of us out and about. So thank you for what you do. And I get to pass the microphone over to someone who is such an exciting leader, making a big, big difference already. Her leadership on behalf of the administration has been collaborative and thoughtful and innovative and really centered on our communities. Secretary of Economic Development, Yvonne Howe.
Thank you so much, Mayor Wu. My 2 teenage girls have grown up knowing Mayor Wu, and they are such big fans. So thank you so much for all your leadership. Thank you, Governor. Thank you to Lieutenant Governor. We are so lucky in this state to have this rock star group of leaders, and it is such an honor to be here with them and with all of you. Thank you all for making time today to come and join us for this celebration of our incredibly strong and diverse Asian American, Native, Hawaiian, Pacific Islander community here in Massachusetts. It's so fun to see so many prominent leaders from across our community. Many of you have been mentors and inspirations and friends for so many years. And I also want to just call out one particular person here, which is Auntie Helen. Okay, so Auntie Helen had her 90th birthday a few months ago, and she has more energy and more ideas than all of us combined. She just told me that she usually takes Sunday off, but because I was so late in getting her the invitation, she actually worked on Sunday for us to kind of make sure we could get this event organized. But just to know, Auntie Helen is an example. She is the OG, as my kids would say. She is the trailblazer. She started her career in this state house as an intern in 1949. And none of us would be here without your incredible leadership and inspiration. So thank you for paving the way. So it is an honor to be here. But like Mayor Wu and the governor talked about, it's also kind of improbable to be here in so many ways for me. And so like Mayor Wu did, maybe I thought I would share some stories from my background and also why Massachusetts is so important to me. So it is improbable. My grandmothers were born in China, and they, when they were small girls, had their feet bound. So I remember shopping with them in the U.S. when they were in their 80s, and we would go to the children's section of the shoe stores because they were size 4 feet. That's my grandmothers. My grandfathers were also born in China. They were generals in the army with Chiang Kai-shek, and they first fought the Japanese, and then they fought the communists, and they lost both times, and they had to flee the country. So my parents grew up in Taiwan, and their goal in life was, if we study hard enough, maybe we can get to Meiguo. So Mei in Chinese is beautiful, Guo is country. So maybe we can get to the beautiful country, which is America. And that was improbable at the time, but it was made probable by Massachusetts because of one of our great Massachusetts leaders, President John F. Kennedy. When he became president, he started immigration reform, and because of his work, my parents could come to this country because of the 1965 Immigration Act, and they came here for graduate school, they met each other, they fell in love, and I was the first person to be born in this country in my family. And I grew up outside of Chicago in the same exact town that Mayor Wu grew up in, so Barrington, Illinois, which is crazy. So Massachusetts plays a role in my story. It really played a role in my story when I came here for the first time for college. So I went to Williams College along with Jeff Wong, class of 95 here. But when we arrived on campus, and my first time in Massachusetts, it also was the first time Williams hired an Asian American history professor. And I took his class. And that was the first time I learned about the history of our people in this country. It's the first time I heard about the Chinese Exclusion Act, which was in the railroads in the 1800s. It's the only time our country has denied an entire category of people from ever becoming citizens. I learned about the Japanese internment camps, where we took Americans who were born here in this country. Many of them did not speak Japanese, had no connection to Japan during World War II, and we took them from their homes and forced them into these camps that were in terrible conditions. So I learned about that. And I learned about all of the other history of all of our people in this country and about all the work we still have to do together. So Massachusetts played a really important role in shaping my understanding of our people here. And then the improbable is why I am here is because of two other exceptional Massachusetts leaders, Governor Healey and Lieutenant Governor Driscoll, who somehow saw in me the ability to perhaps be helpful to our state and took a leap of faith in asking me to take on economic development for our state. So I am very, very honored. And we are working on really important things for our state. We're working on equity, we're working on affordability, we're working on competitiveness. And when we think about economic development, we think about all of our 7 million people across the state. Large ones, small ones, every kind of business, starting here, staying here, expanding here, thriving here, becoming world leaders here. And we think about all of our regions of our state, thriving and growing together. And the AA and HPI community is a huge part of that. So I'm really excited to work with all of you together on this. And so I was talking to my teenage girls last night, and they told me that, my job reminds them a lot of two Chinese words that we say a lot at home. And so this is another improbable thing. I'm going to teach everyone some Chinese. So my girls said, you should tell everybody about 合作. 合作 means basically do it together. And my two girls are very close in age. There was a lot of squabbling at home, including last night about whose Spotify playlist we should listen to. We're cheap, so we only have one Spotify, so they're fighting. So 合作 means just do it together. It'll just be better if you just do it together and figure it out. So Hudzwa is one concept that we talk about a lot in our family and I think is relevant for our state. The other one is, they said you should talk to them about Jayo. Jayo means, add gasoline, like get it done, Jayo. And you say this a lot when you're on the soccer field or on the tennis court. And so I am so grateful and honored to be here. It's improbable to be here, but I'm so excited to Hudzwa together as Team Massachusetts across our NHPI community and across the whole state. And let's go Jayo, let's get it done. Go Team Massachusetts. So thank you so much. Go Celtics. And with that, I'm going to hand it back to the governor.
Okay. Where am I going to sign? Oh, there's a little desk. That's so cute. Okay. So let's have all of our colleagues here from the legislature and secretary and the mayor. Why don't you? And we're going to go sign this proclamation. And everyone can, sorry, you can't hear me. We're going to go over there. You can all stand and sort of, watch this. And of course, we have wonderful refreshments too, so everyone's welcome to stay. Okay, great. Do you want to say? Folks would like to stand behind.
Everyone. Paske li ok pou pa ok. Paske pale kapab ran bagay yo miyo. Paske, eseye komunike se yon sin fos. Toujou gon rezon pou pataje ki jan ou santi yo. Paske, santé mentale ou konte.
Professionnel soin nan kay yo se yon pati important nan ekip santé ya ak yon nan profesyon kap développé pi vite aux États-Unis. Assistant soin nan kay yo sipote moun ki gen anpil l'âge ak moun ki gen yon handicap pou yo karite vive la kay yo sans danger, les assistants yo aide yo nan aktivite tan kou kwit manger et puis fait achat nan maquette. Massachusetts offri yon formation gratis en ligne qui pral montre yo compétence ou besoin pour vignon professionnel kap travay nan yon kay. Le ou bay soin yon lot moun ki nan bezwen, c'est un kou ap bay yo la vie.
Nous vin chita avec vous pour nous brasser l'idée sous question santé. Est-ce que nous vivons dans le même pays, par exemple aux États-Unis, un pays qui gagne en pile opportunité, un pays au côté la science là c'est moun karele de maker of medicine, un pays côté vraiment gagne tellement d'opportunités et tellement d'avancement dans le monde économique, social, dans toute forme. Mais est-ce que c'est même gens lié pour nous tous? Est-ce que c'est même gens lié pour nous tous? Pour me capable expliquer ça m'a dit, je voulais faire mon comprendre bien, je ne pas justifier inégalité. Je ne pas justifier et tout pisi que un groupe monde a tout pisi l'autre monde. Mais il faut comprendre depuis le monde est monde. Toujours quelqu'un qui a pesé l'autre. C'est essence même la vie. Malé parfois pour me dire que l'exploitation de l'homme par l'homme, c'est pivot même de notre existence. Dans n'importe pays, dans n'importe système, il est capable différent d'un pays à un autre, mais toujours dichotomie capable pas aussi grande, mais exploitation moun par moun, ça a toujours existé. Et pour sortir en Bali, faut planifier pour sortir en Bali. Si ou abjam ka fin sorti. Mais parce que pas gen moun ka fait cadeau pour dire ah m'tou pizi ou assez, eh bien m'am lage ou konye. Ça pas yam fait. Ça pas yam fait. ni li pa jam rive fait. Nous avons parlé de ça nous relève équilibre social. Et pour équilibre social, ça a fait, il dépend non seulement de vous-même, et beaucoup plus de vous-même, parce que même système là, pour le changer, il demande participation. Il demande éducation, bon comprendre nous, pour capable jouer rôle pour là-dedans, ensemble avec l'autre là, qui pour permettre changement. Parce que ça cap, même ça cap tout pisou là, il va être en place, la mettez plus sous lui pour le 4 pisou plus. Bon prends exemple. Parce que ou pas capable parler de santé si ou pas parler de politique et d'économie. Il fait partie intégrante de la vie. On prend pays ça. Pays ça, côté moins de 200 ans de ça, peut-être moins toujours, côté moun kankoum avec vous, si vous avez joué un livre dans main, parce que vous comprenez bien valeur éducation, parce que gen moun jodi dit, si vous avez besoin d'être un pays, ou pas besoin de la bombe là-dedans, retirez l'école yo. Et son réalité. So longtemps ça, si vous êtes jeune avec un livre en main, vous avez coupé droit tout, vous avez capé nous tout. Et groupe moun sa yo, n'a parlé nous-mêmes. Il y a pile bataille qui fait côté nous y jodi pour mener côté nous y jodi. Et bataille là peut-être fait commencer. On dit par exemple la Kaino, c'était une grande première, ça ne veut pas dire qu'à penser l'était possible. Que pays ça était qu'à hisser drapeau liberté, il dit liberté pour tout le monde. Et la vraie liberté. Parce que 1789, 1776, c'est pas pour nous. À ce moment, nous étions encore la chose du blanc. Quand on cheval, il y a disposer de où? Quand on n'importe quel animaux. Et la loi a été acceptée. Il n'y a pas nous gens qui veulent faire tout ça. So 1804 fait. Après ça qui a passé, on regarde les boys ici. Hein? Et, bon, me rappeler, mon 1804 est fait par le sang et par le feu. Couper tête boule caille. Je suis très fier de mon passé. Très fier de passer pays. Couper tête boule caille là. Ça, c'était la dialectique des armes qui te menait nous, qui mettait nous dehors pour nous faire créer une patrie. Et peut-être pas pour nous, parce que c'est la vraie liberté de te mettre. La vraie liberté qui prend naissance en Haïti. Une liberté sans frontières, sans couleur, qui mettait à l'échelle universelle. Malheureusement, tant d'histoires qui étaient, ils n'ont pas parlé, ils ont étouffé, et puis qui fait, et toute l'autre bagaille, nous connaissons qui mettait de côté nous hier. Bon, pour me retourner dans l'affaire santé à toujours, ça c'est sorti loin pour me capable d'expliquer ça me voulait dire. Mais bon, ici, hein, si pas de Bloody Sunday, si pas de Rosa Parks, John Lewis et autres, si pas d'implication, même implication ça mène dans la libération South Africa. Même moun sa qui semblait avec ou yo, qui pas de kakembe on li si livre la télé en main yo ta ka tuer yo, pan yo. Mais la bataille la vie hein, ça c'est l'autre phase. Pas nécessairement par la violence, mais par ça les non-violence, mais ils converti moun pour nous arriver à Obama, pour nous arriver à vice-président et tant d'autres. Mais nous sommes capables de bravo pour tout le monde ça fait. Est-ce que bataille ça, nous caprité avec une certaine nonchalance, nous dit, ok, l'arrivée. Mais non! C'est une bataille qui peut faire tout le temps. On regarde côté nous aujourd'hui. On a parlé de disparité qui gagne, on a parlé, ça nous relève structural racism. Jodi an, côté infant mortalité pour ti moun noir, li rampant. Boy ici à côté l'Amérique médecine, il monte plus à 37%. Et l'on boy état oui, si n'a comparé dans l'autre état quand Mississippi, eh bien bon c'était chargé net. Mais la passe en va tout le monde. Nous parlons de sucre là, diabetes. Qui l'anti-monde. Parce que si vous n'avez pas de jeunesse, vous n'avez pas de la vie, pas de demain. Il dépend de jeunesse ou. Mais si ti moun sa yo, dans 10 à 19 ans, ou rend nous compte que chance yo même pour yo gen type 2 diabetes là, les 8 fois plus, si d'ici, hein, c'est pas inventé, c'est 8 fois plus la caillou que caille blanc. Et ti moun sa qui pourra le dépendre pour demain. Même ti moun sa yo, l'on regarde, juvenile incarceration, 41-42%, c'est ti moun noir que yo yé. Nous dépendons de eux pour la société avancée. À school dropout, et plus qu'un noir. On regarde combien de monde qui mouru par gang violence. Gang violence, qui est-ce qui a affecté plus? Quand ça a passé dans le côté de Chicago et autres. So, les n'a dit, même longévité que nous avons parlé, les plus graves dans la communauté, pas non, les plus graves, c'est noir. Parce que l'associé avec pauvreté, les associés avec ignorance, les associés avec environnement l'entour. Il y a tout ça qui entre dans ça, qui permettent que moun groupe ti moun sa mouri pi bonheur. Je prends le depuis en bas pour montrer pendant que nous faisons tout progrès ça, on doit dire bon qu'on y a l'arrivée, mais non. Parce que c'est deux sens là-bas qu'on y a demandé pour ignorer l'histoire ou pas qu'à qu'on histoire ou pas exister. Ce n'est pas qu'on histoire. Comment on comprendre ça? Hein? Pour histoire, pour ne pas permettre tout, pour qu'on qui est souillé, quand on sorti. Tout ça, il y a essayé asphyxie là. Côté il te dit que ou manque un chromosome. Ou pas même qu'à arriver parce que c'est paresseux, ou pas fait, ou pas qu'à aller plus loin. Mais là, on est en phase compétitive qu'on y a changé. Attention, que c'est dans le sport, que c'est dans la musique. L'éducation, dans tout bagaille tout, oui. Nous, en phase compétitive. So, c'est réalité ça. C'est réalité ça arrivé côté nous, parce qu'il y a des gens qui acceptent, consenti des sacrifices et sacrifices. Et bien pour toute vie, pour l'avancement de cause ça. Mais question à poser, ou qu'à arrêter à pas applaudir l'autre monde. Qui fait tout sacrifice ça? Question posée, et ou même? Essayez pas passer l'autre monde, passer tête pas. Passer ou c'est un pion, ou son maillon dans la chaîne. L'aile brisée, il empêche une bonne marche là. Qui sont faits pour protéger tête ou avec les moyens du bord, avec connaissance qu'on gagne, ou still capable de protéger tête ou pour aller plus loin. Parce que l'on aller plus loin, ou pas aller seulement pour tête ou aller pour famille, ou aller pour communauté, ou aller pour toute nation. Donc, je dis à samedi là, une situation n'est pas tellement simple, elle est compliquée. Et là, n'a parlé, nous pas même à parler de santé, tout ça, mental health. Déséquilibre mental, ça. Songez, c'est ça qui peut mener. Habilité de penser, c'est l'allié. Si me lever même, c'est brain moins. Si ma parle avant, c'est là. Là, tout décalage, ça a commencé fait en l'air. Dans le computer, ça là. Ou perdu balance, ça. Ça veut dire situation les plus graves. Ce jeudi, n'a parlé non seulement physique, mais santé mentale. C'est une crise. C'est une crise liée. Non seulement ça, mais il y a l'autre bagage comme coup drogue qui impliqué là-dedans. Mais pour ça, après Covid, après toute l'autre situation, pour nous autres spécifiquement haïtiens, après tremblement de terre, après Mathieu, après tout ça, et puis socialement, qu'on déséquilibre total, la caillou, on va demander combien de temps on était, combien de temps on va vivre. Et puis, ou même qui boit ici, l'on prend un téléphone sorti, qui s'allie. Est-ce qu'il kidnappe un cousin, un frère, ou bien il tue? Là, on comprend, ou vraiment balancer, ou pas parler, ou pas discuter avec l'autre monde. Mais il y a plein, mais pas de plan. M'ba gon baguette magique, même moi-même tout, même j'en m'a plein là tout, nous pas de plan. Et plan, il pas qu'à sortir côté adversaire. Que ce soit des années, des équilibres, ça. Parce que ça nous te connaît la venir. Nous connaissons des cas arrivés là. Parce que ça pour nous te faire pas faire. Ça pour nous te enfant pas de faire, grand-papa pas de faire, tout l'autre monde qui mène là, côté nous aujourd'hui, en tant que peuple, en tant que nation, en tant que communauté. Il y a l'autre monde qui dit que pas de problème sans solution, il y a seulement un problème mal posé. Des capables vrai. Mais c'est participation. Pour une participation tête en bas, une participation dans logique scientifique, pour garder d'abord tête pas. Qui ont qu'à protéger tête parce que sous le bail, il faut qu'on existe pour bail. Ou pas qu'à bail sous pas là. Qui contribution qu'à porter, commencez par tête pas d'abord. Est-ce qu'il y a équilibre là? Est-ce qu'on sent équilibré? Mentalement. Nous parlons de tout médical. Après tout ça là, c'est difficile de dire haïtien. Est-ce qu'on sent dépressé? Qu'est-ce que ça signifie? Je ne comprends pas. Comment dépressé là? Hein? Qu'est-ce que ça veut dire? Il y a des gens qui décrit un bagay ou senti corps serré, ou qu'on rete ou crier, ou triste, ou pas qu'à dormir, ça passe. Tout ça, c'est facteurs qui, moun arrêté, c'est l'aile rendre compte ça, c'est la condition ça qui a déroulé la caille. Et quand l'église là, qui est l'église là engagée dans ça? Est-ce que l'église là engagée là-dedans? Est-ce que vous-même en tant que citoyen engagé? Et c'est là comment? Moi-même quand parle, je n'ai pas de solution. Mais je pense qu'il faut que nous parlions. Je pense qu'il faut que nous discutions. Et peut-être, à travers ça, il y a une solution qui a sorti. Si nous discutons déjà son thérapie, si moi-même avoir parlé là, de ça n'apprend, et pour qui ça, côté le sorti, qui Jean? Qui est-ce qui contribue là-dedans? Quand on est là, nous tout là-dedans, est-ce que, pas la gueule seulement sur deux voisins, hein? Nous connaissons voisins là, depuis l'existence, nous. C'est ça lié. Mais ça ne veut pas dire pour lâcher prise et pour quitter ça aller. Voilà, merci. Mais non. Sur la petite conversation aujourd'hui, nous souhaitons nous arriver à une prise de conscience. Commencez par nous-mêmes. Une prise de conscience qui dit que il ne peut pas permettre à un citoyen pour prendre chemin des espoirs, pour payer. Il ne peut pas permettre à un monde pour ramasser des espoirs pour tête ou pour famille ou tout. Si vous commencez par tête ou, pour dire non. Puisque en moi-même, moi j'ai santé, j'ai l'argent pour vivre avec spiritualité, l'homme a connaît trois ça, ou retrouver rejoindre nous. Ou qu'à nous l'autre élan. Et surtout, l'on discuter avec l'autre monde. Une raison d'être. Pendant qu'on boit ici et là. Oui, il faut que nous allions. Mais pas aller sans qu'on pas tracer ou pas tracer un chemin. Pas mettre le plus difficile pour ça qu'à venir. Si on prend soin de tête ou tracer ça, eh bien l'autre là, la plus facile pour lui. Est-ce qu'il y a une solution après tout ça, M. Douyo? Je ne sais pas. Mais je suis en pile. Moi, monsieur, en pile. Je suis quitté avec saleté dire. C'est un Dominicain, c'est un Mexicain. Qui dit, caminante, no hay camino. El camino se hace al andar. En d'autres termes, voyageur, pas de chemin, non? Mais le chemin se fait en marchant. Ou qu'on voit un dehors, qui prend une manchette là, la coupe liane pour faire chemin pour le passer. Nous faisons ça déjà. Peut-être ou même qui n'est la ville ou pas qu'on est. Mais les gens dehors manchette là, la coupe liane, il fait chemin pour ça que derrière qui suivent lui. Pour mon côté pour y passer. Pour qui ça m'a sorti en santé pour m'arriver jusque-là? Mais c'est partie intégrante, c'est même bagarre là n'a parlé toujours. C'est ou même qui voyage aujourd'hui, dans le chemin la vie. Même l'on le barré, pas de chemin du tout. Mais c'est où qu'à tracer. L'on commence à tracer ensemble, en vont badger, au cas où route la fête, et même un highway. Pour nous tous. Les ancêtres nous ont fait le tout. Moi, je te dis que, dans le 16e siècle, là, dans les circonstances qui dépassaient l'imagination de l'homme, les ancêtres nous ont créé tunnel l'histoire qui débouchait sur le boulevard Liberté. Nous avons recréé le tout. Même j'ai été creusé tunnel ça qui débouchait sur le boulevard Liberté, ensemble, on mettait tête nous pour nous travailler, pour nous regagner le monde que nous sommes en tant qu'être humain qui sur la terre nous fait partie intégrante de l'espèce humaine. On travaille, commencez par tête nous. Nous promettons nous. Nous avons retourné encore sur causer ça, parce que c'est nécessaire. Non seulement pour nous, mais pour les générations qui vont venir. À la prochaine.
Parce que li ok pour pas ok. Parce que parler capable de rendre bagay yo meilleur. Parce que essayer de communiquer, c'est un signe force. Toujours une raison pour partager qui j'ai ressenti. Parce que santé mentale au compte. Eske li ok pou pa ok? Paske pale kapab ran bagay yo miyo. Paske eseye komunike se yon sin fos. Toujou gon rezon pou pataje ki jan ou santi yo. Paske santé mentale ou konte.
Welcome, everyone. Hi, Dr. Ojikudu. Thank you
Hi,
for
how are you?
good. Thank you for joining us. Thank you all for watching. For those of you who are not familiar with our guests, we have Dr. Ojikudu, who is the Executive Director of the Boston Public Health Commission, joining us for an amazing conversation today about the different things that are going on in the city when we talk about racism as a public health crisis. We'll also go into some conversations about the mass health reinstatement. So lots to learn, lots to understand, lots to gather, and a lot to share. So we welcome you and thank you for being here. My name is Brenda Lormill. I am the founder of the Haitian American Medical Association. I also practice at Mass General Hospital in the oncology department, phase 1 research. I am so honored to be here, to be chatting with Dr. Ojikudu. So I will not waste any time because I know there's a lot that we want to cover, but I want to jump into the conversation by having a basic definition. So we've heard the word or the term per se, racism, right? Structural racism. Can you just define that in the most basic way for us to really just dive into the conversation and get context?
Sure, and thank you so much for having me. You're right. A lot of people are using the term structural racism, and unfortunately, it oftentimes doesn't come along with a definition, and it's sometimes confused with other forms of racism, which I will also mention. Structural racism itself is really about systems. So, systems in which policies and institutions create and then perpetuate racial inequity, socially, economically, and politically, and oftentimes this leads to poor health outcomes. When I say systems, I'm talking about the context of the world that we live in. It's not about what happens within an individual medical institution or within an individual academic institution. It's really about all the institutions. It's really about our entire system. And another way that I tend to explain structural racism, it's really about a system of hierarchy, privilege, and power that excludes non-white individuals and then perpetuates racial inequity. I hope that is clear.
No, that is very clear, and it's actually segueing into my next question. Is you use the word systems, right? So we talk about structural racism is a system. Can you give an example of how structural racism as a system can affect the health outcomes of an individual and even a community based off of the work that you do at the Boston Public Health Commission?
Well, I think there are a number of really profound examples that have been within our system for centuries almost. So if you think about housing, and housing both nationally and housing both locally here in Boston, we know that the U.S. has a history of racially biased housing policy. An example of that is redlining, and I'll define redlining. So it's another word that oftentimes is thrown around and then not really well defined. So redlining was a system of ranking neighborhoods by their worthiness for home ownership. So whether or not homes were increasing in value or decreasing in value. And essentially, the neighborhoods where Black people live were often deemed less valuable and less worthy for home ownership, and therefore mortgages were not given out. All right, so they were impossible for Black people, many Black people, to obtain. And without home ownership over decades, there's been a significant loss of generational wealth within communities of color, and that has led, in many circumstances, this issue of this history and policy of redlining to residential segregation. So, and you look across the city of Boston, you see that there are areas where primarily Black and brown people live. And then you have areas where primarily white and wealthier individuals live. And what happens within those neighborhoods where you have these sort of lower rates of home ownership, lower values in terms of the homes or the properties that are there, oftentimes those neighborhoods are under-resourced in general. So under-resourced in regards to healthcare services, under-resourced in terms of other services that may be provided. And if you look just at our housing, sort of challenges here in Boston, the quality and affordability of housing within neighborhoods across Boston is a challenge. So that's one example and one way to look at it. But we could also talk about discriminatory immigration policies. We could also talk about mass incarceration. We could talk about employment. It's really throughout all of the systems that we see across our city and across our country and beyond.
I love that answer, because we may look at housing as an issue, but then when we think about health, the health of an individual, if I can't secure a safe place to stay, how does that then affect my overall health and the health of my family, right?
Exactly.
I love it, because as a clinician, we look at these things, right? The person who's coming into the institution, we're caring for them within the four walls of the institution, but what happens outside of our four walls is actually what's determining how well their health outcomes are when we're caring for them. So I love the housing example, and thank you for using that as an example. As we use that and segue into health inequities, that's leading up to my next question. Before we get into my next question, can you define what health inequities are?
Mm-hmm. So generally, health equity is when everybody has a chance to live their best life, right? So that everybody has access to resources, everybody has a full a full life expectancy, or at least somewhat similar life expectancy across race and ethnicity. When you're talking about racial inequities, you're really talking about differences across people. You're talking about looking at a situation where amongst Black individuals, and I'll just give you some updated data. If you look from 2017 to 2021, Black residents in Boston experienced a 37% increase in premature mortality. That's across that time span. But there were no significant changes in the rate of premature mortality amongst Asian, Latinx, or white residents during that time period. So there's a clear inequity in regards to mortality and in regards to life expectancy. If you look at life expectancy in Boston, we know that the average life expectancy across all residents is approximately 81. But let's compare that to the life expectancy amongst Black males, which is actually more around 71. So these are the data that we have. We know they exist, and they demonstrate pervasive inequities across our system.
And with that data that you guys have, and data doesn't lie, right? What are you guys at the Boston Health Commission, how are you combating some of these issues that you guys are seeing, some of these things that we probably have known for some time, but then there are other things that always pop up, right? How are you guys combating the health inequities that you're discovering in the city of Boston?
Well, I think that one of the ways that public health works in general is that we spend a lot of time, aggregating data, which is kind of what I tried to, give you just a snapshot of or a snippet of. And then we look at the programs that are offered. We look at the strategies that we're going to implement. And we attempt to sort of match the problems that we see in the data to whatever programs and interventions that we're hoping to implement. So, for example, within the COVID-19 response, we know that there was inequitable access across our city in regards to testing, in regards to vaccination, especially early on, right? So what we did is we prioritized equity in our response, and we removed barriers to accessing all of those things, accessing testing, accessing vaccination, accessing treatment. And currently we have standing sites for vaccinations and boosters in the areas where we saw those inequities. So we have a standing site in Dorchester, we have one in Nubian Square, Roxbury, we have one in Hyde Park, and we have them in more general locations, because of course we want to make sure that all residents have access. So that's one example, but there are numerous. So
Right.
we're all aware, during COVID-19 and after COVID-19, sort of what we're currently experiencing now in terms of sort of post the surges that we've had and the lockdown, mental health has been a major concern for people. And one of the things that we know has been a challenge is there's certainly stigma in regards to accessing care and treatment in regards to mental health. But then we also have a lack of mental health providers within our communities, both mental health providers that look like us, as well as those who are linguistically competent and able to, communicate with a diverse patient population. So one of the things that we've invested in here at the Boston Public Health Commission is a new Center for Behavioral Health and Wellness, where we are in the process of training a whole slew of healthcare providers who will be prepared and able to provide services to individuals coming from diverse backgrounds. So again, we look at the problem and then we try to find equitable solutions.
And the solutions are ongoing, right? Just
Yeah,
hearing,
absolutely.
right, they're ongoing. Some of us might feel like we're out of COVID, which is not true, right?
Right.
But the vans are still there, the sites are still there, the people are still there, the mobilization is still happening to meet the needs of the community. I know we're not at the end, but I want to take some time to just say thank you for all the work that you guys are doing around, how to support people through COVID and these post-COVID times. So, we talk about healthcare access to it, but there's something that's happening in April that's coming up, and April's in just a few days, the mass health redetermination, right?
Yes.
So we can find hospitals and clinics, but if we don't have health insurance, which is a mandate in the state of Massachusetts, how do we support our communities? But if we do have insurance, how do we keep it? Can you explain the mass health redetermination process so our viewers have a better understanding?
So this is incredibly important, and it's important that even if you're hearing this and you don't have mass health, that you spread the word. Essentially, mass health needs to renew coverage for all members, essentially determine eligibility on an annual basis. And that has just been a standard in terms of sort of the policies in relationship to mass health. During this period of redetermination, people who have mass health need to update their information so they can maintain their benefits. If they don't, then they will no longer have access. So this is sort of, again, just a standard part of mass health as an insurance source. During COVID, redetermination, so this checking to see if people are eligible, was temporarily paused. And that was important because so many people, either didn't have there was, obviously we were in a lockdown, people didn't have access. There were many issues that were ongoing, and certainly people weren't necessarily accessing our community health centers or other service areas where they may even get assistance in regards to redetermination. So this year, we will no longer have that freedom to not redetermine eligibility. So what will happen is that people will need to go through the process again. And think about it, if you haven't been doing something for 3 years and now all of a sudden you have to do it, you may not be as familiar with it anymore. You may ignore the notices that come in the mail. It may not be something that's at the top of your mind. And what we anticipate may happen is that a lot of people will lose coverage and then not have access to necessary health services. This is something we are really trying to avoid. We want to make sure that if people, they have mass health, if they have received a notification in the mail, that they open it. And if it's not clear to them, that they reach out for help. And that's one of the things that we're doing here at the Boston Public Health Commission. It's something we do continuously. This is one of our longstanding services. We provide what's called the Mayor's Health Line. And we have people who are manning telephones, and they are specialists in mass health and in coverage and in making sure that people are linked to care. For all those individuals who either miss the envelope, the blue envelope that I mentioned, or if they have questions, or if they need to have somebody help them interpret the information that's in the blue envelope, this is where they should call. They should call 617-534-5050, Monday through Friday, 9 to 5. We have people who speak more than 5 languages. It's free, it's confidential, it has nothing to do with immigration status. No one's going to ask you those questions. It's simply there to provide you with assistance. So please avail yourself of that service. Please utilize it and spread the word.
Thank you. And for the process itself, is there a cutoff in terms, I know it starts in April, but is there a particular time frame that folks should be, reaching out if they need help by a specific date?
So once you get the blue envelope, that's when you need to be reaching out. Okay. This is going to be a long-term process over the course of a year. I do not know. There's going to be a due date that's on the renewal package. You will see that you will see that due date. And that is what you need to pay most attention to. And when you call the Mayor's Helpline, which is the number I gave you, 617-534-5050, they will help you figure out exactly what your sort of your time period is. If they're and they'll help you address anything that has caused a problem. And if you've already tried to renew or had your eligibility redetermined, they will assist you with that process.
One thing that comes to the forefront of my mind is that in the past 3 years, so this hasn't been a process because of COVID, of course, but a lot of people may have moved and they might not even receive that blue envelope. So if you hear the number that Dr. Ojikudu just mentioned, and it'll most likely be at the bottom of the screen, don't hesitate to call that number, because if you've moved and the address that they have on file currently is not where you're living, you want to make sure that you're reaching out and updating that information as soon as possible, because your due date is on that envelope, and if you don't receive it, then you have a due date of today, right? That you want to call. You want to call and get that underway. Are there any other community organizations that are helping folks? I know there's HICFA, Healthcare for All.
I was going to say.
Mayan Budsman. Is there anyone else that folks who might be more comfortable to reach out to other community organizations that you can think of?
So many people have started going back to their healthcare providers, and our community health center partners, we have wonderful community health centers in the city of Boston. They are offering similar services. Boston Medical Center is offering similar services. MGH and Brigham and Women's Hospital, they're all trying to help. We try to augment that because the issue is that some people are not accessing health services than they need to, right? So we're trying to sort of fill in the gaps of all of the wonderful work that's going on in terms of what our healthcare partners are doing. And certainly Healthcare for All, as you've mentioned, is a wonderful organization that's doing an enormous amount of work.
Yeah, I will say for our Haitian community, we're working on getting that information in the Haitian Creole language over a live stream, so that will be available for folks to understand. And I love it that you had mentioned when they do call in, there are folks who speak different languages who can assist. Sometimes folks do not engage because they're afraid of that linguistic barrier. So if you're listening to this, share the information with your loved ones, with your community. Know that there is help. We do not want you to have a lapse in your insurance, because that is also your key to accessing care as well. Dr. Ojikudu, any closing remarks? I know we're coming right up to time, and I just want to thank you for sharing everything. Anything you want to share with folks who are listening?
Well, I think one of the things I want to share is that we at the Boston Public Health Commission are a resource. And there are many programs that we have out there, but if there are things that you think that we are, not doing, or things that you would like to see happen, then reach out. Let us know. Send an email. We have an info line. We have, people who are out in the street. You'll see us, at different events. We want to be here to serve. Our goal, our mission is to, meet the needs of Boston residents, and that's what we're here to do. We have a lot of programs that I think oftentimes people are not aware of. We are going to try to do a better job of letting people know the services that we provide. I think that's one of my goals since I've started in this position. And so maybe you'll see more of us out in the community also.
Well, I have to say thank you for all the work that you guys have done. And thank you for the work that is to come. And thank you also for your time this morning.
Thank you. I really appreciate it and look forward to potentially talking again.
Awesome. Thank you.
Take care.
Paske li oke pou pa oke. Paske pale kapab ran bagay yo miyo. Paske eseye komunike se un sin fos. toujou gon rezon pou pataje ki jan ou santi yo. Paske, santé mentale ou konte.